It's all this mass development here in Mesa and in the Phoenix Valley in the middle of a mega drought. Yes, I know, a mega drought. Is all that going to hasten the demise of the valley? Are we looking forward to a catastrophe where there might be a mass migration out of the Southwest, out of the desert? This is just a small fraction of the building that is taking place here, especially in the East Valley. It's the whole valley, but especially, I've lived out here since 1993. I have never seen building at the scope and the rate that we are seeing today. Every empty lot, practically, is being built. So this behind me is industrial, and all the way down for miles industrial, and also housing. I'll show housing in just a second. Okay, so everything behind me is going to be houses. This used to be a dairy. Some of the remnants of the dairy are still there in the background there. So I'm glad that the dairy's gone. I'm sure they held out for quite a fortune. But across the street there, you could see where I was on the previous corner, where it is all industrial. This is one of hundreds, probably, of new developments that are going up in the East Valley. They go down for miles and miles in either direction, and will also towards the Superstition Mountains in the east side of the valley. I'm glad that the dairy's not there anymore. That, you know, for a lot of reasons. The smell, the bugs, the flies, my gosh. As I'll get into, I mean, we're already getting water restrictions. So they just keep putting up more and more developments despite all the water restrictions. And what's interesting is, I came out here earlier to record this video, and I was going to use my phone, but it's actually so hot that I couldn't use the phone. So I had to pull out the heavier camera for this. Hey, I'm on top of Spook Hill, which it looks a lot higher than it really is. It only took about 9 minutes to get up here. It might be 100 yards high. I don't know. Either some I have to look up. But behind me are the Superstition Mountains, and here in Arizona, Mesa, Arizona, and it's already 90 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning.
And the heat! My God, the heat!
So it's hard to believe why Mesa, Arizona would actually be the largest suburban area in the United States, with well over 500,000 people. And as I'm mentioning throughout this video, it's not slowing down. The amount of development that's going on is, I've never seen it before. From here, I mean, the valley is so flat, you can see just from this little bit of a peak, you can see the entire valley. It is awesome. And Camelback is a much better hike, and Camelback is going to be behind me there, so hopefully we can see that. Much better hike. You can get an even better view of the valley. But this is actually pretty cool. So mass migrations in human history are nothing new. They've been going on since recorded time, probably. And there are a few that I've mentioned before that if it wasn't for these mass migrations, well, quite a lot of us watching the video probably, wouldn't be around. So one of the important ones for me is, of course, the potato famine. The potato famine, which was, hey, let's face it, had more to do with rich people in England, the rich landholders, and failed crops. But because of the potato famine, over 1 million Irish had to flee Ireland and immigrate. They had to move out, and that included, of course, the Cullens, which immigrated to the United States and married three of the Cullen siblings, sisters, married 3 McDonald brothers. So if that had not happened, I would not be here. And of course, there is the Great Sicilian Migration that started about a generation after the unification with Italy. And because of the oppression of the Piedmont government, the Italian government, a lot of Sicilians suffered, and they started to immigrate. And of course, mia familia propria, they did immigrate. My great-grandfather Pietro Randazzo did immigrate around 1906 to Brooklyn, and then the Gargaglianos, my other bisnonna, about 10 years later. Mia Nonna, she came with her mom and the rest of the family, her siblings, around 1919. And of course now we've got a more recent one where we've got a civil war in Syria, which accounts for some estimates as much as 5 million people have fled that area. So 5 million people being displaced and immigrating. And also from last year, quite a bit of people from Afghanistan. So those are 2 mass migrations in just contemporary history. So it's a very common thing. And maybe we're on the verge of another one. So with all this building, then we get in the news. And let me tell you, I've been here since 1993. I have never seen building at the rate and scope that they are doing right now. But see, on the news they're talking about more restrictions on water, tighter restrictions on water, and they just keep building more and more. And I remember this is a drought that's 22 years long, mega drought, and I remember having monsoon season, regular actual storms. It would actually rain, and it just doesn't do that anymore. We had a lot of more storms this year, but still nothing like what we would need to pull out of this mega drought. And these are not small houses either. They're not building affordable stuff. They're building stuff that starts at $500,000. Yeah, some of the housing that they're doing, some, not that much, is luxury apartments like these behind me. Some. But these are really expensive. These may be just apartments, but they're luxury. These are like $2,000 a month rent and up to start. So this is not solving anything. So one of the consequences of this mega drought going on for over 22 years is that Lake Powell, Lake Mead are drying up. Obviously this is not lake, this is in Mesa, Arizona. This is a man-made lake or pond. This is not just in the Southwest, this is worldwide. There are mega droughts in Europe, rivers are drying up, it's really bad in China, and so whatever your opinion may be on the consequences or the aggravating factors of climate change in this and extreme weather, it is absolutely real. Again, this is not Lake Powell. This is not a good example. It's just a pretty place to stop by. But it's not a hoax. These things are absolutely real. And actually, there was a river in Germany that, this is scary, that a previous mega drought in Europe, they had put some carvings on some of the stones. And so one of them is, if you see me weep. Holy crap, that is some scary stuff. That's just going back to another previous drought where probably thousands and thousands of people wound up losing their lives or having to mass immigrate out of that particular area. So unlike here, what's happening at Lake Powell and Lake Mead, they are actually starting to get barrels that are, because the water is so low, there are barrels with people in it. There are human remains that are coming up. I mean, what kind of world is it where the mob can't commit barrel murders anymore? And speaking of barrel murders, I actually did a video on a cousin of mine, Vito De Duca from Cartagena, Sicilia, who immigrated to Brooklyn, who was actually implicated in some barrel murders. So definitely check out that video for information there. Now you think with all the water restrictions, every year getting tighter and tighter and tighter, that there would be less building permits, but just the opposite seems to be happening. Like the more the water is restricted, that the more building permits they seem to give out. It just seems to be that no matter how filthy rich somebody is, they can get away with violating the rules and doing things that are potentially hazardous. I mean, we've seen in California where there's much tighter water restrictions than even here in Arizona, and of course the mega rich just get away with it. They just violate it like it's nothing because they can, and if they institute a fine, then it's not a big deal. They're able to pay it. Even if it was a $250,000 fine, people in Beverly Hills can pay that like you and I paying $100. So now obviously you have more people moving in. More people equals more power, more water, all while we're being restricted. What does that mean? What is the outcome of this? What's going to happen? Now, I remember in Gilbert, Arizona, I'm actually still in Mesa, Arizona. I don't think I'm going to make it to Gilbert today, but Gilbert back in the 90s actually had a very short-lived emphasis on short-lived, a very short-lived moratorium on building, and they're building just as a furious rate and scope as Mesa and the rest of the valley. So it's very obvious that money talks, that they were able to get past the moratorium regardless of the impact that it's going to have on the valley in the long term. It's because money talks, that's what gets things done, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the impact. But as you can see here behind me, we're not talking about small houses that they're building. They're not building small, affordable houses. They are building massive structures. Most of the houses in this particular area, see if I can get a good look there, most of the houses that are being built here are going to have not one, but 2 AC units. Now, just one AC unit here in Phoenix is going to run you for a summer $400 to $500 a month. because of the increased rate from SRP. So imagine, imagine having two. These are massive structures. These are not small houses. These are an incredible energy drain. And of course, the people who are going to be buying it are going to be able to afford it. But the question is, has the valley hit the limits of its resources? Well, behind me are the Superstition Mountains, which we saw earlier when I was on top of Spook Hill, which is more that way. So, are we on the verge of another mass migration out of the Southwest? Are we going to see maybe a million or so people have to migrate out of the Southwest because of water restrictions, and potentially a power problem because the power plants, the hydroelectric plants won't be able to produce electricity anymore, especially for Las Vegas, simply because there is not enough water because of this drought. So look behind me, all of this, and I mean all of it. All of it is going to be developed soon. Further down the road, a couple of miles, they've already started cutting out the streets. But this entire area is going to be industrial and homes. So again, we already know we're under water restrictions. Right now, they're going to be worse next year, and they keep building. Is this building towards a catastrophe? And I know that there is a housing crisis, and it's not just in Phoenix. It's pretty much worldwide. And I really can't get into the details of that, but I will mention, because I did talk about the filthy rich already, who are primarily responsible for getting us into this predicament. And that is that the housing market was deliberately driven up for the benefit of basically a handful of people to make an just an obscene amount of money.
Exactly how obscene an amount of money were you talking about? Just profane or really offensive?
Really offensive.
I like him so much.
It does seem that given the water shortages that we're going to have to go through next year, that we've already outgrown our resources here in the valley. Well, that's going to do it. This mega drought, I've been outside for a while. It is super hot, as well as being a mega drought. But I do hope that this drought is going to end soon, and that we will have a lot or more rain and a lot of snow. We actually sometimes get snow where you'll be able to see it on the Superstition Mountains behind me. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think we are on the verge of another mass migration here in the Southwest? And that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching. And now
go home and get your fucking shine box.